concentration of wealth at the very top is more than bad economics. It is immoral and it is unsustainable. Instead of growing an economy with good wages where anyone can unlock their useful potential, we are undermining our middle class, undermining the needs of our kids, undermining the heart of our democracy. Now, if we are serious about reversing income and wealth inequality, what are some of the things that we need to do? First, we have got to make sure that anybody in America who works 40 hours a week is not living in poverty. And that means that over a period of a few years, we have got to increase the minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour. Furthermore, we need to make certain that we have pay equity for women work. It's absurd that women continue to make 78 cents on the dollar compared to men. Second of all, we have to put the American people back to work. And that means a $1 trillion job program to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, which will result in up to 13 million decent paying jobs. Third, we need a tax system which is fair. And among other things, we need to put a tax on Wall Street speculation so that every American, regardless of income, can go to college tuition free. Now, as many of you know, 7 years ago, the taxpayers of this country, as a result of the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior on Wall Street, our country, our middle class, bailed them out. Well, now it is Wall Street's turn to make sure that they help the middle class of this country and that all of our people, regardless of income, can get to college. In my view, a society in which so many have so little, while so few have so much, is not what the United States of America is supposed to be about. We have hundreds of thousands of bright young people today who cannot afford to go to college. That is crazy and unfair, not only to the individuals, to the young people, but to the future of our economy. In the last election in November, 80% of young people didn't vote. If large numbers of young people continue not to vote, not to participate in the political process, you're quite right, we will not succeed. If people do stand up and say, yes, this is crazy, college education should be affordable for all people, we will win it. That's why I've introduced legislation that does two things. Number one, it says that all public colleges and universities in America must be tuition free, meaning that everybody, regardless of their income, who has the ability and the desire, can get a higher education. Number two, that we're going to deal with the issue of student debt, which is just crushing millions of people in this country. And we do that in two ways. Number one, we say that if you can refinance your home today at 2 or 3%, you should not be paying 8 or 10% interest rates on your student debt. Secondly, the federal government must get out of the business of profiteering, of making billions of dollars on student debt from working class families. And I think the American people agree that the way you fund that program is through a tax on Wall Street speculation. We bailed out Wall Street, now it's Wall Street's time to start helping the middle class and working class of this country.
One of the things you mentioned in that answer had to do with sort of reforming or reevaluating the war on drugs and how effective we've been. One of the issues that hasn't gotten a whole lot of play in this presidential campaign so far, and not only yours, but the campaign of others, is the decriminalization of marijuana. Do you have a policy position on that?
Well, my state of Vermont has decriminalized marijuana, and I support that.
Okay.
In other words, if you are possessing a small amounts of marijuana, it should not be a criminal offense, it should be a civil, you might want to pay a fine on that. I support marijuana use for medical purposes, and we're exploring the pluses and minuses, of which there are both, of moving more aggressively on that area. It is a very important issue. We're watching what Colorado is doing, and we'll have more to say about that in the coming weeks and months.
So do you believe it is the purview of the federal government to legislate the criminalization of marijuana?
What the federal government can do is say to the state of Colorado that if you choose to vote to legalize marijuana, we will
allow you to do that without restrictions. In other words, right now, as I understand it, in Colorado, people who run marijuana shops can't put their money in banks, for example. That's in violation of federal law. So I think there are things that the federal government can do that would make it easier for states that want to go in that direction to be able to do so.
Would you be in favor of having the federal government be more active in moving towards that direction?
That's something we will have more to say about. It's a very good question, and it's a fair question. Let me not jump on what I want to be more thoughtful about in the coming weeks and months.
Sure.
We have more people in jail today than any other country on earth, including communist China, 3 times our size, which is an authoritarian country. So we need real reforms in criminal justice. Our goal should not be to put more and more people in jail. It should be figuring out ways that we keep people out of jail. And that requires major reforms in our criminal justice system. It requires accountability for police departments. It means taking a hard look at the war on drugs so that we do not flood our jails with nonviolent criminals. It means a path out of jail so that when people leave jail, they're going to have jobs and education and mental health counseling rather than getting right back into jail. It means getting corporations out of the running and building of jails. People should not be making profits by the incarceration of fellow Americans. We're going to offer it within the month. Basically, it says in so many words that corporations will not be allowed to run or build penitentiaries or jails in this country. We can't continue to shout at each other about gun control and go nowhere in a hurry. We know in Vermont, though, that where guns here are associated with hunting or target shooting, we know that is not the case necessarily in Chicago or Los Angeles. I think the vast majority of the people in this country do believe that we should have strong, instant background checks. We should ban weapons that are designed for no other reason other than killing people. I can play a good role in bringing urban America and rural America together, but one thing I do know, if we're serious about making sure that people who should not have guns do not have guns, just to be yelling at each other.